To the surprise of no one, there was a lot of migrant news yesterday. You know, we've been talking all morning, and we'll continue. Our political analyst, Joe Pinion, going to talk in just about a half an hour about Mayor Eric Adams down in New York City and what he had to say because, wow. Meanwhile, there are very few and far between actual leaders trying to do something about what is going on in our state. One of them is in our own backyard, State Senator Jim Tedisco, who made some news yesterday, and he joins us live on WGY Mornings to discuss. Senator, welcome back.
Doug, it's always great to be with you. I hope you're doing well, and you're all geared up for the weekend coming up in the 44th Senatorial District.
Yeah.
You got to get over to the Greek Festival, Little Italy, the Caribbean Festival, Stockade Art Show, Boat Roundabout in Waterford, Malta Day. If the weather holds up and cooperates, it's going to be a great day to get a variety of recreational opportunities going and great food in my Senate district.
I had a little lunch down on J Street yesterday, and I was like, signs up for all sorts of festivals. I'm like, how's Schenectady cramming all of this into one weekend? But they are. There is going to be a ton to go. Yeah, so you're right about that. Now, yesterday you made news, and there's a phrase that you don't use very often anymore, bipartisan.
Right.
Smart by you. Also, it does show when somebody from one party and somebody from the other party can get together, we must have a serious crisis on our hands. That's what happened yesterday with you.
Well, nothing could illustrate it better that this is not only impacting our elected officials, but it's impacting our constituents, the state of New York, and really the nation. You know, when you get someone like Assemblywoman Button-Shawn, a part of the supermajority in the New York State Assembly. I mean, they control all levers of power now. One party, as you know, the Senate, supermajority, the Assembly, supermajority. They have the governor, same affiliation. And she says, look, I've had enough. I like your bill. I want to sponsor it. What's good for the goose, this falls into that category, is good for the gander, except when it's not, with this mayor from New York City and getting support from the policies put forth just to kick the can down the road by this governor. And it also falls into the area of watch out for what you wish for, Mr. Mayor. You're going to get it. I mean, this is a mayor, an elected leader in one of the greatest cities, biggest cities in the world, who was beating his breast and saying, we're the asylum city, come one, come all, except when he's not, and he gets a dose of reality. And you saw what the real reality is the other day. It's destroying New York City. Well, if he thinks it's going to destroy New York City, what does he think the rest of the elected officials and leaders in governments and municipalities across the state are thinking when he starts to rush them after, showing such hypocrisy, beating up the border states, Texas and Arizona? What's wrong with you? Kind of like this county executive in Buffalo, Doug,
yep,
who said, we're the asylum community here too, except when one of these migrants murders and one rapes, the next week we're not taking anymore, okay? So this is a bipartisan piece of legislation which basically says we'll get decision-making ability from our upstate communities and local governments, just like he's making the decision not to accept these individuals and to just treat them like pawns on a chessboard, kick the can down the road, and say, there's a total lack of transparency, by the way, that continues with this DOTCO, and just send them across the state of New York willy-nilly. Well, what our bill is basically called now is the Migrant Home Rule Transfer Transparency piece of legislation, and basically says you give us 30 days if you think you want to try to do this. And even if you do, they'll be able to pass a home rule piece of legislation which decides after they evaluate what their situation is, just like he is right now. And if they reject it, well, it's $1,000 a day, every day for every individual he has sent across the state to any municipality. Now, it's not only him with this, it's any legislative leader, mayor or supervisor or county executive which tries to attempt to do this. Because, Doug, the real answer, you and I know, because we're calling my party and our leadership on both sides, Republicans in the Senate and the Assembly, to come back to session and do one thing, put as much pressure as possible on Biden and the federal government, Schumer and all those leaders out there in Congress and the Senate, to do something about the border. Because bringing these individuals in without any assimilation plan is not compassion, kicking them down the road to other municipalities, and it's not showing compassion for them. And believe me, I think all of my colleagues, and they should on both sides of the aisle, I know my side of the aisle has compassion. We know we're the greatest nation in the world because of immigration, but it's usually, and was and has been, for the best interest, legal immigration with a planned process, bringing a continuum of enough individuals across the border if they need sanctuary. We understand that, but not a process that just lets them flow through without checking to see their health conditions, if they really are in need of sanctuary and things of that nature. So,
but you know, and I know, Senator,
some of my colleagues want to support.
You know, and I know how dysfunctional Albany can be. While your bill says that locals get to decide whether or not they want migrants shipped to their communities, there's another bill up there right now. It's from a New York City person, obviously, but that says locals specifically can't get to decide. And I'm more nervous that one's going to get more support than yours because that's how crazy Albany is.
Oh, absolutely. See, they've really stepped in it now because they've used immigration not for the best immigrant or migrant who comes to this nation who wants sanctuary, wants to be a part of the greatest dream in the world, be a part of the United States with freedom of liberty. They've used it as a political tool. Now it's turned around to bite them because they're showing their hypocrisy that they only want this to be talked about and to beat their chest and say, yeah, we embrace, we bring them all in, except when it impacts their community. And now when that happens, they're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk. And they got this company, DACO, where the mayor is giving them $500 million, and the comptroller says, are you out of your mind? I'm not going to accept or sign off on this because this is a company that's had no experience. They're involved in medical equipment. They provided COVID tests, and not in a good way, I don't think, in New York State. So,
here's my last question for you, Senator. The governor said yesterday she's open to a special session of the legislature calling you guys back. Gee, don't rush this, Governor, or anything. It's not like this has been going on for months. But what are the chances that's going to happen?
Well, I think there is a chance now. You said it right at the beginning. When you see Democrats and Republicans, we disagree on a heck of a lot. But when we come to a point when we disagree about something, that's newsworthy to our constituents. They like to see that happen because they know there must be a problem, and this must be somewhat of a good solution in terms of what we really need to urge and support and make the governor and the leadership in both the Senate and the Assembly, because they do control all levers of power. The only reason that the mayor is allowed to do this, and they're kind of sitting back and they're not really coming out and supporting it full force because they know what's happening to our constituents, is because they have that power to do that. So now the pressure is on them because it's both Democratic leaders and Republican leaders, progressives, conservatives who are saying, look, this is having a profound impact. Doug, we talked about this before. 71 new students came to the communities here. Colony had, I think, 40 or 50. Rotterdam, the Schenectady school districts. That's $24,000 for each one of those students that the taxpayers of this region are going to have to cough up. Now, that wasn't put in their budget. $24,000, 71 students, two-thirds have English as a second language. They're going to have to hire special ed teachers, special programming, specialists and teachers who teach English as a second language. So this goes beyond some of the crime we've seen now, some of the other security impacts, some of the failures of this DACO. This goes beyond a large amount of dollars and money that the state or federal government hasn't coughed up and prepared, and these budgets are in place right now. They could go back and change them, I guess, but the money isn't there unless they go back and tax our constituents more. That's why I've asked the governor to cough up with the money for those 71 students. $24,000 for each one of them. Actually goes above and beyond that because of their special needs. So there's tremendous ramifications, and it's impacting both parties and all of our constituents.
Listen,
they deserve our attention.
You're so right about that, and I wish you all the best with your bipartisan bill. I don't like your chances because it makes sense, and sense never wins out in Albany, as you well know. But keep fighting the good fight.
Common sense.
Yeah, keep fighting the good fight.
hope the weather's good tomorrow. You get some good Italian, Greek, and Caribbean food in the Schenectady area. You take care.
We got to go on an eating tour with Tedisco one of these days, guys. He knows the spots, believe me. So
listen, if you come there tomorrow or today, today's Friday because the Greek Festival opens today. I'll be serving a lot of good Greek food, and I'll give you the best sandwich you ever had. I'll be right at the booth there today.
That's a promise. All right, Senator Jim Tedisco live right here on WGY Mornings.